Now we come to Esther. This midah of tznius comes out in Esther in an extraordinary way. And you learned the Megillah, and I learned the Megillah. And you learned Masechtas Megillah, and I learned Masechtas Megillah. And we don't think about the rest of the story. Let me tell you the story of Esther. Esther was Meiser Nefesh. She went to the house of Achashverosh against her better judgment. Mordechai said so. She had Emunas Chachamim. She went. And for 9 years, she lived a double life. She was in Achashverosh's palace, and she would steal away and spend time with Mordechai. And when the 9 years are up, Mordechai sends her on a mission where she has to say, Kasher avadati avadati. If I do this, I lose the second half of my secret life. The part where I can go to Mordechai occasionally is going to be lost. Kasher avadati avadati, and she's tempted not to do it. And then Mordechai has to tell her, Al tadami b'nafshech li'molei beis hamelech ki macharesh tachrishi lo'is hazois revach vatzol yamin li'yehudim b'mokim acher. Not easy for her. And she goes, and she does what she has to do, and she saves Klal Yisrael, and we have the Megillah, Hayir Shushan Sola v'samecha, la Yehudim v'sa'ira v'simcha v'sasim yikar. Wonderful ending. That's not the rest of the story. Because Esther becomes pregnant. She becomes pregnant from Achashverosh, and she has a baby boy. And she's still living in Achashverosh's palace, and raising this, her only child, and the only child she'll ever have. And we can only picture that as she's nursing this baby boy, she's telling him, Yehudi ata, you're a Yid. Don't forget, you're a Jew. When she wakes him up in the morning, she washes Negelwasser and teaches him Maida'ani. We can only imagine the tears in her prayer as this boy is 1 year old and 2 years old and 3 years old. Her tefillah that this boy, this child, her only child, should grow up knowing that he's a Jew, being a Jew. Certainly she davened he should be a gadol b'Yisrael. And this boy, whose name was Daryavesh, grows up and takes the house of his father. He becomes a member of Paras Umadai, a Persian like his father. He doesn't look at himself as a Jew. He doesn't consider himself a Jew. He succeeds Achashverosh when Achashverosh dies and becomes a melech. Don't get me wrong. He's good to the Jewish people. But he himself is not a Shomer Shabbos and doesn't eat kosher and marries a non-Jewish woman. And what remains from Esther? Nothing. The whole city is happy, and Esther is stuck, married to Achashverosh in the same spot. And for Esther, no Eira Zutaira. Nothing at all. How did she contain herself? How did she control herself and not have complaints to the Bayrei Olam? Rabbeinu Shalom, I gave my whole life for Klal Yisrael. For 9 years, I didn't know why I was doing it. And now, Kasher Avadati Avadati, I know it's forever. I'll never go back to Mordechai. And my one child, can't there be a way for him to grow up as I am in the king's palace, secretly a Yid? The tznius of Rachel, there was a tznius of Shaul, and there was a tznius of Esther. Kilu Loy Lavisi. Without complaints to the Bayrei Olam, Esther went on. How many of us, in our simple lives compared to Esther's, have disappointments in the job area, in health, in chinuch habanim, and we know the Rebbeinu Shalom wants something from us, so we learn more, we daven better, we say Tehillim, and we say, Rebbeinu Shalom, what do you want? You gave me an Nisayin, I'm davening well, I'm doing things well. No. Kilu Loy Lavisi, an extraordinary level of Madrega. I know a mechanech of high school children, a Mesivta Rebbe, who's very devoted to his Talmidim, spends time with the ones that struggle, and brought many of them back from the edge. And he himself has trouble with both his sons. He has difficulty. The tsar of a mechanech, having children that are not growing up to be Talmidei Chachamim. Who can understand? Rabbeinu Shalom. Rabbeinu Shalom, I'm involved with your children. You do for my children. A normal request. Tremendous Nisayon. To be Ki'ilu Loi Lavisi. I once read an incident, and I'm reading it to you from a Jewish Observer of a number of years ago. An incident which fits well. This person is writing about a Baal Tshuva. David, a Baal Tshuva from his mid-20s, who gave up a glamorous career as a performing artist and rooted himself in a Baal Tshuva yeshiva. Unfortunately, his learning skills didn't quite match his strength of character, and he never climbed the levels of Talmudic study as his peers did. Compounding his frustration with scholastic achievement, his efforts in Parnasa and Shidduchim were also not blessed with success. As a close friend to David, I once took him to the world-renowned mashgiach, Rav Don Segel, to receive a blessing for him for Shidduchim and success. As David didn't know Yiddish, I accompanied him to serve as an interpreter. When we came to the mashgiach, I pointed out that David, an extraordinarily muscular and handsome young man, was formerly enjoying an extremely successful and pleasurable life in a secular lifestyle. He had a successful career, money, and an unending stream of female admirers. Since he had become religious, he had found neither prestige, parnasa, nor a shidduch. I expected Rav Segel to give him a warm blessing, as I have always seen him do. Instead, the mashgiach clasped David's hands in his own, humbly lowered his head, and in an emotional voice said, I envy your portion in the world to come. If only I should marry the place in Olam Haba which you have. And the author writes, for 2 decades I have known the mashgiach. I never heard him give exaggerated praise, nor did I ever hear him make a remotely similar statement. For a person to have that sniusa, to not be teiveya from the Rabbeinu Shalom, not to make demands, Rabbeinu Shalom, how can it be? It's extraordinary. It's the story of Rachel, the story of Shaul, and such a powerful story of Esther. And now you know the rest of the story. But there's one more piece. Because afterwards, Kimu v'kiblu ha-Yehudim. The Yehudim were makabel the Torah again. It's nice, beautiful thing. Kimu v'kiblu ha-Yehudim. Sounds great. New Kabbalah Satira. What new Kabbalah Satira? Let me tell you the rest of the story. When did this take place? The story of Purim. Klal Yisrael had suffered the Churban. The Churban we learn about in Yirmiyah. The Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. There wasn't a single Jew in Eretz Yisrael for 52 years. Jews were driven to Bavel, some ran to Mitzrayim. And suddenly, after 52 years, there came a king named Kirish. And Kirish said, I give you permission to go back to Eretz Yisrael and to rebuild the Beis HaMikdash. And guess what? 40,000 Jews move. 40,000 Jews pick themselves up in one shot and go from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael. And, as is described in the beginning of the book of Ezra, they build a mizbeach and bring karbanos for the first time since the Churban. And they start to build the Beis HaMikdash, they build the foundation. And suddenly, Kirish retracts his permission. Permission is taken back, they have to stop. They're left in Eretz Yisrael, they were depending on the funding coming from Bavel. It's over. And the whole state of the Yishuv in Eretz Yisrael falls into poverty and hopelessness. And a couple of years go by, and Achashverosh succeeds Kirish, a new king. And a decade later, this king takes a minister Haman. And soon he decrees on Klal Yisrael that they'll all be destroyed. Think of the 40,000 Jews in Eretz Yisrael. of which Mordechai was one who originally went up and then came back to Shushan. Rabbeinu Shalom, a churban was not enough. And I picked myself up and I moved across the world from Babel to Eretz Yisrael, and we start to build. Rabbeinu Shalom, what are we asking you for? You say no? We're asking for your Shemayim? We're asking for an ability to serve you? The answer is no. And now this. No doubt, not everyone was a Rachel, a Shaul, or an Esther. And there were complaints to the Rabbeinu Shalom. The joy that they had had when they returned to Eretz Yisrael had come crashing down all around them. And now, Esther taught them a lesson. Kimu v'kiblu ha-Yehudim. They too were makabel upon themselves a Torah in Galus, a Torah in darkness. Because you remember, when Esther asks from Achashverosh, Achashverosh responds, Ad chatzi ha-malchus v'seyos, and Rashi brings, Ad chatzi ha-malchus, Ad dover shechoitzes b'mnei ha-malchus, u'binyan beis ha-migdash. Achashverosh says, nothing doing. I'm not giving you the beis ha-migdash. The answer is still no. And kimu v'kiblu ha-Yehudim. So now you understand? You understand the rest of the story of Purim. You understand Esther min ha-Torah minayin, Anochi astir astir panai. You understand that it's all hidden, that it's all not visible. Let's look again at Baruch ben Neriah. Baruch ben Neriah complains to the Borei Olam. He says, Rabbeinu Shalom, look at what I did for you. It's a raw kibalti. I've been a faithful disciple of Yirmiyah. When they beat him up, they beat me up. And when the book of Eicha had to be taken to an evil king, I took it. And I suffered at the hands of the king. Es hara kibalti v'satoiv v'loi kibalti. Why don't I get nevuah? You say no to a request for ruchnius? What does Rabbeinu Shalom say? He says to him, Ata tevakesh l'cha gedailos. You demand nevuah? Al tevakesh. You think you did what it says in the Rambam Perek Zayin Ilchos Yesodei HaTorah? You think you've reached the level of nevuah? Al tevakesh, a person who demands from the Borei Olam, is imperfect. Al tevakesh, don't request. It's no surprise that later, when Baruch ben Neriah accepted that he won't be a Navi, Al tevakesh, and he took this midah of not demanding from Hashem, then he reached the perfection he had to. Is it a surprise that he reached nevuah later? Not at all. Al tevakesh. So if you can identify tonight with the words of Baruch ben Neriah, Yogati bi'anchasi u'menucha loy matzasi. If you can identify with that, then let us try to identify with the extraordinary madrega of Al tevakesh. We have no demands from the Borei Olam. We don't know if the Borei Olam wants our Yerushalayim or our child's Yerushalayim. Or maybe it's more chashiv to him that we daven and cry for Yerushalayim. That we daven and cry and wish that we could daven better or learn better. Maybe that is the chashivos, the tears, which are the mark of a ben Olam haba. The word menucha loy matzasi in Hebrew, I believe, is used in two ways. Menucha is used, as we have today in Parshas Yisrael, vayonach bayayim hashvi, to be used in an expression of rest, resting, or to stop doing something, vayonach. However, we find it used differently. Vayal ha'arbe, we had when the locusts came upon the land of Egypt, in one of the Makkahs. Vayonach b'chol gevul Mitzrayim. And the locusts rested within the boundaries of Mitzrayim. Did they rest? Did they stop working? No. Vayonach b'yom hashvi, the Targum is v'nach b'yom hashvi'ah. Is to rest and stop doing things. Vayonach b'chol gevul Eretz Mitzrayim, the Targum is v'shara. Sometimes menucha is when a person settles in to do a job. Menucha loy matzasi, to be restful, menuchas hanefesh and calm, is wonderful.